daily. That could that could help both sides. I was just curious if that had ever been considered by the delegation.
It's never been brought to our attention.
And it might make
everyone's job easier. That's a decision that will need to be made.
But see, in that aspect, you know, we'll have someone call from the nursing home and say, I need a printout from my department, and Catherine emails it to them as a. So, I mean, it's not like they can go onto our system. They just send the request. And
my only comment to that is a discussion that needs to occur within the confines of the county. And if it's in the budget, it's in the budget. If it's not, it's not. But I am concerned, and I think the sheriff is concerned as well, that we need to get this settled so that we're not having a problem with the coding. And that needs to be resolved between the two of you, however you want to do it. But I am concerned that we're getting this back and forth, and we need to solve that. So if you two can work together to solve that, then I think we're done with that topic. And I think that I have agreement that you will work to do that.
I'll get back to you on the specific plan. I would like to identify.
I don't need a specific plan.
I think you do need a specific plan, man. That's the problem with Carroll County. We do this.
If you want to make sure that Kathy signs off on it.
We do this.
Okay.
This county brings us casual indifference to everything we do, and I'm not going to tolerate it.
Okay.
And I don't operate like that.
Then you bring me a plan. You and Kathy agree to it, and then I think all of us are happy.
And I'll make sure Mr. McCarthy gets a copy of that plan.
Well, you can send it to me, and I'll forward it out to everybody. So
I would like to point out an example of what I'm talking about while we're talking about it. The percentage of salary items, salary deputies, which is the largest line item in my office, is 53% as of 30 September. Well, we already know we're into the month of October. We're going into the last quarter here. And 53%, well, that's just scoping out a number. That's far below where it needs to be. Now, that's salaries. And my line item for special deputies is 133%. And I know we've watched that line item, and it's not 133%.
Well, I can also talk to you about this. September just ended on Friday, so September salaries are not in there. As far as the special deputies go, I know you've had to use special deputies over because of having less regular deputies, so they've been taken over.
That's another factor.
That
right.
whole piece there. I mean, because the amount budgeted for special deputies is only $21,000. So, in that aspect, your deputies are going to be lower, and your special deputies are going to be higher because of him having vacant positions. And like I said, September just ended Friday, so today's Monday, so the salaries didn't get posted yet.
Okay. Now, let's go on to number 2, which is what controls does the sheriff have over expenditures, and what spending do the commissioners have control over? Do we need to develop a better understanding between the parties? Now, if I understand the system, which I may or may not, but I want to be clear that as I understand it, if you're given a budget, each department is given a budget. If you are going to exceed a line item on the budget, then that must be approved by the commissioners. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's the new policy.
Okay.
as a policy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's take our case of, that you just cited, where the special deputies have exceeded their line item. So, the procedure should be, if I'm not mistaken, that the sheriff would go to the commissioners' meeting and say, I have overspent my special deputy line because I didn't have all my hires here. And therefore, I want to move from the salary line $20,000 to cover the special deputy line. Is that how that works?
Well, I believe what would happen is once the budget, the lines are set, we don't change them, but knowing that that line is going to go over and the other line is going to be under because it's the salary.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, Frank, go ahead.
I don't think that's the intent of what the commissioners wanted. If you look at the definition of an appropriation, if you are going to move an appropriation from one line item to another, you have to get permission from the county commissioners to do so. And then it has to show on the budget that the money was taken out of this line item and moved into this line item. You're moving an appropriation. That's what the permission is for, to move an appropriation. So I don't think you just do it.
Could I ask one of the commissioners what you think your policy says?
Well, indeed, but we're talking here about salary, which is a large item. It's a larger budget item. So if you're moving from one salary, from one person's salary to another person's salary, or from one thing to another, I don't know that necessarily has to be done. But if we're moving it from clothing expense to salary, that would be something else.
Exactly.
So as long as
you don't have a line item for every single individual's salary.
No.
You have a line item for salaries, and you can move that money within that line item as you see fit, or as the sheriff sees fit. But if you're going to move line item money from an appropriation for salaries over to special details, you have to get permission to do that.
Except in this case, we have two line items, one for special deputies and one for salary. And so that to me...
I see what you're saying, and that may indeed be a different picture.
That to me should require
Permission.
Permission to do that.
You have a point there. I just would not like to see that the sheriff or any of those who are elected officials have to come to us every time they want to make adjustments of that nature. I think that's that's really a special kind of adjustment, as opposed to, as I spoke before, and as Representative McCarthy spoke, of making it from one line item of totally different consequence to another line item.
And historically, for salaries, when the sheriff does his budget, it's for the number of deputies he's having, the salary for those people, and to reduce that, I think that would be somewhat of a difficulty for him during the budget process going forward, don't you? Because you say this year we were down a person, so it got charged to special deputies.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, it is fluid to a certain extent.
Okay. So let me make sure that, and I'm just trying to set the ground rules so that we don't go forward with problems. If everyone here agrees that anything to do with salaries, you know, within that thing, whether it's salaries for, you know, the nursing home administrator or salaries for the nurses, is all within the same salary thing, and that's something that the commissioners don't want to be bothered with, then we say that, you know, this particular line item incorporates these things.
I'd just like to make a caveat here.
Yes.
The reason that we're looking at salaries at the moment is that you are short of deputies, correct?
That's correct.
And if we don't understand that if he takes it away from the deputy line to cover the shortage, or the overage, I should say, in the, what was the other?
Special.
The specials, that next year you don't look at that and say, well, you didn't need all that much money in the deputy line, therefore we won't give you that amount of money. But the problem here is that he doesn't have enough deputies in the first place, and that's why the problem comes up in the shortage. Am I correct?
That certainly is a significant factor.
We have to be cognizant that we don't make it look so that he, in coming up for the following year, he's going to be short. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep. Excuse me, Frank, just a second. The only thing I want to do is that if we can all agree that the salary for dispatch and the salary for the sheriff includes salary, overtime, and special, and the benefits that go with that, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, you know, those should be grouped as one,
Okay.
then I don't have a problem.
That would certainly go a long ways to fix some of the discussion that we're talking about.
And Frank, you had a comment?
Yes. Commissioner Sullivan, you just mentioned something that's very, very appropriate because, and again, I'm going to go back to last year.
This is missing the sheriff.
There's 40 line items in the sheriff's budget. Out of those 40 line items, he was overspent by 20. He did not overspend his bottom line, okay? But he did overspend 20 line items. And in order to cover that over expenditure, he took predominantly money from special details and court bailiffs, which is income, not an appropriation. It's down as an appropriation, but it's really income. $100,000 worth of that went to cover the 20 line items that were overspent. Consequently, in this year's budget, if you look at this year's versus last year, special details and court bailiffs are down. Because exactly what you said is what the committee said a long time ago. Well, you didn't need all this money. You moved 60,000 of it over to here. So we're going to cut you down to only 10,000 or 15,000, whatever it was. So what you said is exactly true. That's what happened.
So if I look at this, and I'm sorry I didn't bring my copy with me, but look, you've got one you can share with Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll share this one. If I look at
What are you looking at?
page 5.
This is a 2011. That's fine.
Page 5.
Categories are the same.
When I look at salaries, I see administrative salaries, I see grant salaries, I see special detail salaries, I see personal days, overtime, secretary salary, deputies, blah, 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 on and on and on. And then you go into the benefits thing. So are we comfortable that all of that can be in the same pot? Or is our pot only special details, salary, overtime, deputy salary, and special deputy salary?